The worst part is that I got erased.
Welcome to Mushrooms and Mocktails, Episode 1. This episode, The Mushroom Underground, a conversation with a Colorado psychedelic pioneer. I'm Jimmy Smers, one of your hosts. I'm a spiritual and psychedelic educator and founder of Yoga on the Green. I've been involved in plant medicine and psychedelics in the Colorado and Denver area for the past 10 years. Let me introduce you to my lovely co-host here, Miss Ashley Ryan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Ryan. I teach people about mushrooms, wellness, spirituality, love, and personal growth. Check out my blog at thenaughtyprofessor.com and YouTube channel at Mushlust. We are so excited to launch this podcast and share our passion for mushrooms with you. We are co-founders of Psyched for Media, a psychedelic media company that produces this podcast and other projects.
I want to take a moment real quick to thank our first sponsor here, Tequila Blues, located in the Highlands. It is a beautiful little bar that specializes in, obviously, tequila, but they also make some wonderful mocktails, which is one of the reasons for the title of our podcast. Personally, I have been sober for 11 years, but really enjoy the camaraderie and occasional shadiness that I can find in a bar. So mocktails have become a little bit of a personal passion of mine. We are recording in front of a live audience of mushroom enthusiasts. But for more information on future episodes, be sure to check out our website, www.mocktailsandmushrooms.com.
We also have a disclaimer. The material presented in this podcast is intended for adults, and it is also intended to be educational. This is not legal or medical advice and should not be a substitute for professional guidance. Please consult with a medical professional before consuming mushrooms or any other psychedelic substances. Today's topic is Colorado's gray market for mushrooms and community healing. It's based on a recent article by Colorado Public Radio. The article explores how some people in Colorado are growing, sharing, using, and guiding mushroom journeys despite the legal risks and uncertainties. It also examines how the state is preparing for the regulated access model to medicine in 2025.
I'd like to introduce our guest here. And he's a very special guest, and who is also featured in the Colorado Public Radio article with myself and Ashley. He is an educator, death doula, activist, cultivator, empathic witness. He serves his communities as a steward and facilitator and as a leader for the Denver Psilocybin Initiative and is the co-founder of the Denver Mushroom Cooperative. He played a key role in Denver's original 301 campaign to decriminalize psilocybin mushrooms back in 2019 when I first met him. Travis also teaches Microdosing Mondays, a weekly class where he guides people on how to use natural medicine safely and effectively. Travis has won the Oakland Hyphy Labs Fall Cup both in 2021 and 2022 for cultivation. As a casualty of the drug war, Travis has been peppered with traumatic arrests and periods of incarceration. He is passionate about sharing his insights and experience to better the world we live in. Travis, hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
A lot of change over these past 4 years, and you have always been on the forefront of it.
Yes. One of those changes is the recent decriminalization effort that you helped lead and pass in Denver, 301, and the legalization of psilocybin mushrooms in Colorado, approved by voters last year. But it's not as simple as sounds. There's still a lot of confusion and controversy about what this means and how it affects the mushroom community.
That's right, Ashley, and that's why we're here today, to talk about Colorado's gray market and the future of community healing. As I said before, we were featured in a recent article by Colorado Public Radio that explores this topic in depth.
That's right, Jimmy. The article is titled Legal Mushrooms Don't Arrive Until 2025, but Colorado's gray market is already here. It was written by Andrew Kenny, a reporter who covers politics, environment, and culture for CPR. He interviewed us and Travis about our experiences as educators and guides, as well as our opinions on Senate Bill 23290 and the community healing scene in Colorado. Let's take a look at an excerpt from the article. You can find this on cpr.org. You can also go to your favorite search engine and look up legal mushrooms don't arrive until 2025, but Colorado's gray market is already here. Last year, Colorado voters approved Proposition 122, creating a natural medicine health act with the measure by passing more than 7 percentage points. But the state is still well over a year out from issuing its first licenses for the psychedelic industry. This hasn't stopped gray market practitioners. One man in Denver is offering Microdose Monday classes and supplying mushrooms for microdosing. Others are growing mushrooms in closets and warehouses and sharing them broadly with practitioners. Online searches quickly turn up numerous websites offering guiding services in Denver. The proposition gave us the opportunity to use our voice and share the healing power of mushrooms, Ryan said. And so what we want to talk about are these changes. The new law will take effect July 1st, and what Senate Bill 23290 does is it will not just ban paid advertising but all forms of advertising for unlicensed guides who are offering mushrooms along with other restrictions. Fluck worries that the powerful players in any regulated market will have an incentive to push the state to crack down on gray market competition. Once you allow the industry in, and we're seeing this with medical cannabis, the lobbyists come in and start chipping away at these personal freedoms.
First question, what did you think of the article?
I was on the phone with CPR for 45 minutes, and we went over a lot. And I feel like of everything I said, the 2 quotes they used were pretty to the point around my concerns, and very accessible to people reading the articles.
Have you received any feedback from others as far as how you came out from the article? Or?
One of my students actually walked into my class on Monday and had just heard me on the radio, so that was pretty surreal. And I got some feedback from people that I knew that had listened to it in the morning, and I started selling tickets like crazy to the Monday class, so somebody was listening.
People are becoming informed. Unfortunately, we know that we are going to see some restrictions on allowing people to be informed starting July 1st as Senate Bill 290 will take effect and will institute some new rules which will prohibit advertising or any type of professional website that is associated with psilocybin mushrooms. Are you going to make any changes starting July 1st?
Is it a civil penalty?
So a $1,000 fine, but I think it's pretty much kind of a civil penalty.
I haven't made a decision yet. I feel like there's so much word of mouth stuff happening right now that I don't need to push on that anymore. And I have a lot of sympathetic reporters that are going to continue to report on me because reporting is not advertising, so I'll continue to get attention. And the special advisor to the governor is interested in at least on plant medicines, is interested in taking my class. So I feel like the information is going to get out there. And the ways and means that we can kind of let people know that this is happening is just trust that the word will get around. It's a very inexpensive class, and we gift the medicine, and I think that's a beautiful thing in the ocean of high-priced, really inaccessible services.
Now, we still have a few days that we are able to actually discuss this without any type of worry. So would you give us a quick review of the class about how many people are in it and how people can find more information on it?
It's a small class size. I intentionally capped it at 10 so that people would have an opportunity to really kind of relax into the space and get as much of my time and attention as possible. There's always a push to, have high class sizes to make it a money thing, but that's not what it's really about for me. And I'm really glad that I kept it small because, at the beginning of the class, everybody's pretty mousy and very reserved. And by the end of the class, once we're, making capsules and in that do-it-yourself phase, everybody opens up, and it's a really, really great feedback. And right now, I have an email. If you want information, it's micromondays@protonmail.com, and I don't have an official website or anything like that. But my personal Instagram is view _askew, ASKEW, And you can also reach me through the Denver Mushroom Cooperative Instagram page.
So people have been coming in to help learn about microdosing and how to make their own medicine, and you've been helping them prepare for that type of situation. Have you also had people coming in who are interested in macrodosing, and have you been able to provide any assistance to them?
The way I've been communicating to people is that is something that eventually I'm going to iterate into my education. And I'm really trying to set people up so that they don't, in the end, need me, unless in a very rare instance where they want to, journey on an amount that having someone there with them is very advisable. But yeah, I think that the microdosing kind of just like is a very gentle way to start to interact with the medicine, and a very gentle way to interact with community that works with these medicines. So a lot of the conversations have been kind of like, eventually this is something we're going to do, but not right now.
So how long have you been teaching the classes?
Since late April. When I knew that it was going to pass the House, I felt confident enough to open up the space without, concern that the vote was going to go in the direction we didn't want it to go, and then I'd have to close it all down.
And so if someone's coming to take the class, how many weeks do they actually participate in the class, or is it kind of a one night, you get everything you need to know?
It's one night. It's about an hour lecture, which is the bulk of it is indigenous use, the fact that it's a living medicine. We talk about risks and benefits so people can make an informed decision if they even want to proceed. I resource them very well around contraindications and connect them with healthcare providers if they need them, if their doctor is unwilling or doesn't know how to talk about this stuff. And then we introduce the concept of a microdose. And then on the heels of that, I have a waiver that everyone signs that basically says, yes, I realize there are risks and benefits, and that the mushrooms are a gift and not part of the paid education.
And what has been the most impactful piece of feedback you have received over these past several months?
A gentleman with a traumatic brain injury that's had brain fog every day for 10 years came back to me about 2 weeks later and said, for the first time in 10 years, he doesn't have brain fog like he did, and he doesn't have to be afraid that he will fatigue his brain to the point where he will go into a shutdown for a few days. And we both kind of chuckled that, we're talking about 1/20th of a gram of mushrooms here that gave him that peace.
Have you had any negative feedback?
Not on my class specifically, but the last class I did have somebody come back, like at the end, come up to me and tell me that she was just disillusioned by all of this. And I stayed with her in dialogue for about a half hour after the class. And she told me a story where she was desperate. So she reached out to a practitioner that charged her $2,000 and gave her eventually the equivalent of 10 grams. And she really didn't get anything out of it. And she doesn't even know why she came to the class, but she figured she'd just go through the motions. And that was really, I felt for her, especially considering that she really didn't get anything out of it. And, we tend to talk about all the great benefits and realizations and powerful stories of transformation. And there's a lot of people that do not have those results, and they do not want to come forward with those stories because we don't normalize that stuff. So it wasn't a negative thing about the class, and to this day I haven't had anything negative about the class come up, but just negative about, a certain aspect of this work. And this attitude that if people aren't getting the results that they read about in the paper or that are essentially whitewashed, that there's something wrong with them.
We have certainly seen a lot of people with minimum experience kind of enter the space. Certainly many wishing to help others heal, but also some just wishing to make a quick buck off those who wish to heal. And certainly while, quality medicine is a major part of the process, it is also finding not only community, but those who know how to work with the medicine and those who can help guide through the whole entire transformational process and not just teach a quick 1 hour class, not even many times, just, actually provide them with mushrooms with very little guidance, very little experience, and very little good energy to go along with that. So I know while we worked down at the Capitol, much of the legislative session, we would often answer the question, how do you know the mushrooms are not laced with fentanyl? What weird questions have you heard in your classes?
I don't know. I'm like hard pressed to top that one. I think that ultimately what we're getting at is the absurdity of the prohibition mindset, minus an example of a question that really exemplifies that. But, this attitude that the drugs are inherently good or bad and that alcohol is okay. And, it's fascinating that we have intersected morality with criminality. If something is criminal, then it's immoral, right? But if we look at the history, Nixon enacted these laws because the people taking these substances just so happened to be anti-war. It's like these substances woke them up to the prison industrial complex, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, that's bad. And so Nixon, as a political act, made them illegal. Yeah, I'm still hard-pressed to come up with some absurd example of a question that comes from that mindset that just doesn't understand or appreciate what we're looking at. Oftentimes, I think of this poem with these 6 blind men that go visit an elephant. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
So these 6 blind men go visit an elephant, and they reach out and they kind of describe what they see, and they arrive at a conclusion based on what they can reach out and see, or what they can perceive. So the first one reaches out and feels a long handle with a little brush, and he's like, oh, it must be a paintbrush. And then the other one reaches out and hugs this tree trunk and notices that it goes to the floor and says, oh, well, this must be a tree trunk. So I see a lot of people that have never worked with these medicines that are still stuck in the stigma that these things can make you lose your mind and aren't safe, are just stuck in that story of they're in a very reductive place, that they're not actually seeing something in its entirety. So I feel like I went on a little tangent there but yeah, it's kind of what I see.
So shifting topics a little bit, last week Denver had the Psychedelic Science 2023 convention with approximately 15,000 people who came in. What was the best part? What was the worst part for you? And what actually surprised you?
The best part for me was when the indigenous got on stage with Doblin at the end and spoke to the colonization of these medicines. I really felt that was necessary, and it just so happened that 3 of the 4 of them were people that I knew, so I just felt like, yeah, go team. The worst part is that I got erased. So my ex-wife and I led the Denver Mushroom Campaign, years ago, 10 minutes from where the conference was held, and we didn't get brought up in an official way. And I have reason to believe that the reason MAPS had their conference there was because we decriminalized mushrooms. And they even held a workshop where they charged $300 a ticket to tell people essentially how they did my job, but they didn't invite me. So that was probably the worst part. And I also got yelled at. I did get yelled at in the expo for basically raising a fuss about that. And let's see, what surprised me? It surprised me that so many people follow my work. And I didn't go very far walking around without people coming up to me and just thanking me or just making me feel very seen. And, a lot of times we post things to social media and it just goes out into the ether. And if people don't comment or interact with it, you'd never know. But I had a really beautiful opportunity to just meet tons of people that are aligned with my work and just really... just made me feel special.
You are special.
Thanks.
You are truly special. Because it is the people who generally put the healing and caring about others above everything else that we really need more of in this world. And, certainly at, $800 a ticket, those people were not necessarily the most prominent people at the MAPS conference. Certainly from what I saw, a lot of the messaging throughout followed a specific narrative. Ashley, what was your favorite part of the MAPS conference?
I absolutely loved the sex and psychedelics talk.
Well, that's a shocker.
That really got me excited and inspired, and I'm excited to talk more about that next week. We do want to get questions from our audience members for Travis, and so we're going to take a quick break, and while we're on break, we're going to ask you to write your questions down on a Post-it, and you can hand those to us, and when we come back from the break, we want to take your questions and make sure those get answered. We're so excited that everyone came here and that we have such a pioneer who is one of my most favorite people in the world, and I'm so honored that Travis is here tonight. And so we're going to take 5 minutes and grab a drink, write down your questions, and when we come back, we will get to those. Thank you so much.